The triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution waste affects everyone, everywhere.
The United Nations Environment Programme and UN Volunteers are looking for inspiring and bright young people to help tackle these challenges.
Do you have what it takes?
You'll get to work on cities, carbon markets, climate law, sustainable textiles, ocean technology, and more.
You're highly motivated, have a relevant postgraduate degree, and 3 years of work experience. We're looking for you.
This is your chance to help protect the planet and shape the future that you want.
So, what are you waiting for?
Apply to UNEP's Young Talent Pipeline today.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the United Nations Environmental Programme and UN Volunteers Young Talent Pipeline Initiative, fondly known as UNEP YTP 2024 webinar. We are coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya, and the city of Bonn in Germany. My name is Edwin, and I'll be your host for today's session. We are thrilled to have you join us from all our social platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and our X pages known as Twitter, that is. Yes, I can see our audience streaming in fast, and I hope this is going to be an exciting session. To make this session interactive, please go ahead and share with us where you're joining us from. Tell us where you're joining us from, where you're listening to this webinar, where you're watching this webinar from. And also, this is the time to go to the chat session and ask any burning questions you have about UN volunteers, how to join, what you've been trying to do in the sidelines, and all that. And especially about the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline Initiative. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, just to let you in, today we have a very exciting session lined up for you. And our main goal for this session, for this live webinar, is to dive deeper into what the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline Initiative is all about. And this is with an aim to, attract potential candidates from different nationalities and areas of expertise to then join the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline, and also to highlight the close collaboration that UNEP has with UN volunteers in this initiative. We are going to share the impacts and achievements of the current cohort of the UNEP volunteers, hoping to inspire many of you that are watching us right now. And throughout the session, we hope, or we are looking forward to hear firsthand experiences from our current volunteers, whom I'm going to introduce shortly, and also to gain insights into the application process, which will come through our recruitment partners. I'm also going to share that and introduce them shortly, and also have the opportunities for you, our audience, to ask questions about United Nations volunteers and the UNEP YTP program. That was a mouthful, but now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Siti Soraya, who will provide an overview of the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline and also to give us more insight into this initiative. Soraya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Edwin. And thanks to UNV for having the UN Environment Program colleagues at this event today. So firstly, for those who may not yet know, the UN Environment Program is the leading global authority on the environment within the United Nations system. We advocate for and drive transformational change by drilling down on the root causes of climate change, nature, biodiversity loss, and pollution. We work globally out of 44 duty stations, and our headquarters, where around 40% of all of our staff are based, is in Nairobi, Kenya, which is a UN headquarters city and the only UN headquarters city in the global south. So at UNEP, we work with governments, we work with civil society, private sector, other international organizations and NGOs, and our UN sibling agencies. So to do all of this, UNEP really needs a strong workforce that is specialized, fit for purpose, agile, and diverse to work on climate action, pollution action, and nature action. Because of this, UNEP and UNV are working together in cooperation on UNEP's Young Talent Pipeline. This is a talent initiative that started last year. So we are looking for young professionals from all over the world and people from Latin America, the Caribbean, Eastern Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa, as well as women and members of marginalized communities are especially encouraged to apply to work on specific assignments across UNEP as a young professional. So we will be recruiting you under the UN Volunteers International Volunteer Specialist contract, initially for 12 months with a possibility of an extension based on your performance. The idea is that by starting your UN career as a UN volunteer in UNEP, you will be able to contribute your expertise to the organization and in exchange, gain knowledge, work experience, networks, the ability to deepen your expertise in your fields through your time at UNEP and in the UN system. So then in a couple of years, depending on your personal circumstance and your performance, you will then be in a great position to apply to staff positions through the UN staff selection system. We are looking for UNEP's environmental leaders, essentially. So the future leaders. So we're looking for people 33 years of age and younger. You must have either a bachelor's or a master's degree, depending on the assignment. 2 years of work experience in the relevant field, and a minimum of 3 years of full-time work in general. So you have to indicate in the application that you are fluent in English. And if you have working knowledge or fluency of another UN official language, that would be a huge asset. So what are the assignments? Well, the positions for this year's Young Talent Pipeline are Climate Early Warning Systems Portfolio Specialist, Digital and Emerging Technology Specialist, Associate Legal Officer in Climate Law, Science Policy Specialist, IT Infrastructure Specialist, Sustainable Textile Specialist, Sustainable Mobility Specialist, Green City Specialist, Carbon Market Specialist, Ocean Governance Specialist, Water Ecosystem Specialist, Stakeholder Engagement Specialist, and Internal Communication Specialist. So last year, we recruited 12 colleagues in 12 completely different positions under the first Young Talent Pipeline cohort, and they began their work this year in January. So my dear colleagues, Mariana and Louis, will hopefully share their experience on this. And then Ursula, my friend at UNV, will share tips and tricks of getting your application seen and all the info on salary, benefits, and entitlements as a UN volunteer. So if this seems right for you, please, I encourage you to apply and join us as part of the Young Talent Pipeline to work for People and Planet. I look forward to having you as a colleague. Thanks again, and back to you, Edwin.
Thank you, Soraya, for that insightful overview. If you listen to Soraya clearly, she mentioned that we are going to recruit you. She used the term you, meaning you, the audience watching us right now. One other thing she mentioned is work experience. So as much as there is the term volunteer, still you need to be qualified and be called a specialist in your area of work. Now, moving on to one of the most exciting sessions of this webinar today, hearing directly from our current volunteers, the stories they have to share, their experiences working at UNEP and, the life in Nairobi. I'm delighted to introduce to you two incredible individuals who have been part of the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline for almost a year now. Please help me welcome on stage Mariana Osipova and Luis Pineda. So Luis and Mariana, thank you so much for joining us today. And to start us off, could you both, tell us a little bit more about your personal background and what motivated you to apply to the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline? So Mariana, I'll start with you. Introduce yourself and then give us just a slight background about yourself and what motivated you to join UNEP.
Sure, thanks Edwin. So hi everyone, or Mambo as we say it here in Nairobi. So my name is Mariana Osipova and I'm originally from Russia, and I work as a youth education specialist with UNEP headquarters here. So around my motivation and background, so before joining UNEP, I was already working as an international UNV with the UN Resident Coordinator office here in Kenya, also based in Nairobi. And I was looking for professional development opportunities as a young professional, and I really wanted to gain new experience with a different UN agency, because working on a global level and working on a national level, these are very two different things. Also, I wanted to go deeper into youth engagement, education, and environmental agenda. So when I saw the description of assignment of this position, it was just perfectly aligned with my career aspirations. And funny fact that I was also attending a similar webinar 1 year ago, also with UNV and UNEP, and here I am. So you can definitely make it. Thank you, and Owa.
Amazing. Luis, I would like to hear your story.
Yes, thank you, Edwin, and hi to everyone. Hi. So my experience is I have a background in environmental science as an engineering. Then I transited towards more socioeconomic aspects of international development, and I was working in another international organization in project management and similar areas. But while I was also looking for the opportunity to go back to my passion, which is mostly environmental projects. And I remember seeing this opportunity, and I actually saw it twice, because the first time I went through the list of all the openings, I didn't see the one that that it was calling for me, the one that I can see clearly that aligned to what I've done and what my expertise are. It wasn't until the second time that I found this NBS specialist project management position, which really called to my attention. Like, this is it. This is perfectly aligned to me, and I think that's quite nice. That led me to apply, and then a whole process that we're gonna go through. And now I'm here in Nairobi, happily established and already in the work. Back to you, Edwin.
Thank you, Luis. Interesting to hear about what inspired you guys to join UNEP Young Talent Pipeline. Now, moving on. And again, this is to the two of you. Could you please tell us and the audience about your volunteer assignments? What does a typical day, at work look like, and what kind of tasks and activities are you involved in? Luis, you could go first for this.
Yes, so I think a UNB assignment is quite similar to a job position. So you're gonna and you can read through the description of assignment that each one of the positions has, and it has a broad idea not only what you're gonna be doing as a specific task or a specific responsibilities, because that's one of the things that I would like to highlight. Even as a UNB, you have main responsibilities that you are in charge of, that you have to follow through, but also it has a lot of information about in which unit and in which branch are you going to be inserted. You're almost always going to be working within a team with other people collaborating in among different stuff, because like in the UN system and in UNEP in general, you cannot do anything alone. You will have to work with other people. So yeah, that's pretty much some like general stuff that I'm doing specifically for my position. My position is more related with project management of NBS or nature-based solutions, but as you can have at any different positions, and I think Mariana will tell you about hers, it's all about reading the DOA, and yeah, I think that's my general perception, and I can go to Mariana now.
Sure, thanks, Luis. Really very good overview. I think I will just give very specific examples of what I'm doing on a daily basis. So my work, which is youth and education coordinator, officer, specialist, includes talking to many different people and coordinating. Yes, so I coordinate activities, events, sometimes also people and colleagues. As I said, I also speak and interact a lot with different colleagues inside inside UNEP, UN, and also externally with other stakeholders, youth in particular. Just to ensure that their voices are heard and that their opinions are taken into account when we design programs, we run events, activities. I'm also writing different concept notes, talking points for senior management if they're attending any youth-related or education-related event. I moderate meetings. I do desk research on specific topics around youth education. and that's tough. And what I can just add is that you really need to be prepared to be quite flexible. And if there's something that is not in your DOA, just be open-minded because you're here to learn. So yeah, just to flag these few things. Thank you, and over to you, Edwin.
Thanks, Mariana and Luis. These are quite some heavy accomplishments you guys have there. Now, to our audience, you realize that Mariana and Luis were not just plucked from the streets. These are people who are already impacting their communities in a certain way, building their skills and careers, and that is what we are looking for. We are looking for professionals in their area of work to join UNEP in this impactful work on the environment. Now, to our next question, and this is directly to you, Luis. How has, the volunteer experience you've just talked about, how has it affected your career perspectives? Has it changed what you had prior in mind? Has it developed something new in you? How has it changed? Luis.
Thank you, Edwin. So how it has impacted it, I think I'm gonna try to put it on different levels, because then, like, the first thing I will say, it helps you develop new skills, because even like when you have a background and several years of experience, in my case in project management and environmental projects, etc., but still, just for example, to deal with what the UN system and how the UN system works, that helps you develop a new set of skills and knowledge. Another area that I will also mention is, like, because UNEP is the main point in the principal environmental program for United Nations. It means that working in the headquarters of the UNEP, you're also going to have contact with many, many different people that are doing similar things that you were doing in a local or regional level, but only in a global scale. So that helps you connect with the many, many different people, which is one of the things that I've been doing. For example, in one project, we're trying to we're developing regional workshops in specific topics, but that not leads you to coordinate with the regional offices and the people that is actually implementing different projects, not only UN projects, but also outside of the UN system. And I think that has a really big impact in your career, as long as many other learning opportunities inside the UN system provides you as an UNB, including certain specifically, for example, for project management inside the UN system, but others are more general that can help you grow your career.
Thanks, Luis. Now, I don't know about you, the audience, but I'm picking quite some informative information from this conversation. So far, I've picked teamwork from Luis. I've picked flexibility. Mariana has talked about flexibility. And then Luis also mentions that the UN provides you with a space then to get your local skills to a global limelight, or then to use your skills at a global stage. And I think that is one. If you didn't have a reason yet to join UNEP Young Talent Pipeline, then this should really encourage you to join UNEP Young Talent Pipeline, being that you stop working locally and then go on to a global platform. My next question is to Mariana, and this is quite interesting. Mariana, could you share with us what your life in Nairobi looks like, outside of work, the living conditions, the social life, and even the security conditions around you?
Yeah, thanks, Edwin. Happy to share about that. So, Nairobi, as some of you who maybe are based here know, that Nairobi has quite a pleasant climate and weather, although now it's much colder here than in my home country, Russia, because we're in winter these days and there's no central heating. The city itself, because it's the duty station of these assignments, has a lot to offer, actually. To do after work. So you can go to social dance classes, you can do hiking in Nairobi and also outside Nairobi, but pretty close to the city. Rock climbing, roller skating, there are theater performances, there's National Theater, there are a couple of museums, art galleries, concerts happening every weekend. So really many things to do. not to mention visiting Kenyan national parks if you are for safari or bird watching, and also, of course, the Indian Ocean coast, which is just 1 hour flight from Nairobi or 6 hours on train, which is, of course, more environmentally friendly. So during my free time, what I regularly do is learning Kiswahili language, also riding my bicycle, trying to go somewhere outside the city at least once per month just to look for a new place, and also dance classes. Also, in terms of security, Edwin, as you asked, it's my first time in living in a country in sub-Saharan Africa, so I don't know much like how Nairobi is to compare with other cities in terms of living, but I guess it's relatively safe. But of course, there are certain areas where you can't walk, for example, alone in the dark, especially if you are a female. And also, something to note is that there are not so many public spaces. For example, if you come from the countries where you enjoy freedom of like walking everywhere you want, and just moving at night again, maybe you can't find it that easily in Nairobi, but there are certain places where you can walk and enjoy the nature, but there are not so many compared maybe to other countries like in Europe or maybe even Latin America. And Asia. So this is just something to take note of. But Nairobi is great in terms of, as I said, leisure and outdoor activities if you're for them.
Thanks, Mariana. Listening to you, it feels like you have a lot of fun after work. And we have a slogan at UNV. We say, volunteerism is not voluntourism. But then again, you cannot just stick to work and not have some fun. So when you're here in this city, you're open to have fun, but also work equally heavy. Thank you so much, Mariana and Luis, for sharing your stories and experiences. It's incredibly valuable for our audience to hear directly from you, your experiences in and outside of the workplace. Your insights are not only informative, but they're also truly, truly inspiring. To our audience, if you enjoyed this session, like me, kindly comment to us in the chat section and tell us, have you learned something? Is there something you resonate with, or is there something about UN volunteers that you like to know? Because we are moving on to a session where our recruiters will be coming on board to take us through this. Now, to the next segment, which is quite informative. And this is where you'll find most of the information you need about joining the UN volunteers, and specifically the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline Initiative. So for this session, you might want to be more attentive than you were before. And to take us through this, let me call on stage Ursula Makoski. Ursula is part of our UNV recruitment team, and she will be taking us through the application process and the benefits of joining the United Nations volunteers. Over to you, Ursula.
Thank you very much. As Edwin said, my name is Ursula, and I have the pleasure of answering many of the questions that have come in through the chat about applying to become a UN volunteer in general, but then specifically for the Young Talent Pipeline Initiative with UNEP. Now, those of you who have already applied in the past to the UN system know that most of our applications, almost all, are done over websites, over web portals. For UNV, the website we are managing for the entire volunteer journey is called the Unified Volunteering Platform, and the link is on the slide. It's app.unv.org. You can also use the QR code to arrive directly on the Unified Volunteering Platform and to see the assignments that are available currently as part of the Young Talent Pipeline with UNEP. So if you do not want to use the QR code, here is the description how to filter out the assignments that we are currently offering. By entering UNEP as the host entity, you see filters on the left side of the UVP screen, you enter Kenya as the country of assignment and international specialist as the volunteer category. Now, what does that tell you? And this is specifically for all those that have asked, why is there an age limit? Can I also apply if I'm not in the environmental field? So this platform shows you all the assignments on site and also online that UNV currently offers. And this is changing, updating almost every day. So there is a wide variety of assignments for people in different fields. If you want to engage in a full-time on-site assignment as a UN volunteer, also online volunteering tasks. So I don't know if there is something for everyone, but definitely for a lot of people, also going beyond the profiles we are looking for this initiative. So just that as piece of information, if you are interested in becoming a volunteer but not matching the requirements of this initiative. Now, what is the most important point to keep in mind when you start your journey on UVP? It's to do a good job, a solid job around creating your UNV profile. So this is really a summary of all of your qualifications, your skills, and your experience. And it's kind of like a business card, I would say, that if you are applying to a UNV assignment, will then allow our team of recruiters to assess you against other applicants that are coming in and to see whether your qualifications match the requirements that are listed in the description of assignment. Now, here already a tip on how you can improve your chances. A key element of your profile is definitely the description of your your work experience. So if you can describe what you have been doing, your responsibilities, and also the results that you have achieved in your different roles, this really will give the recruiters a very good idea of the relevance of what you have done in the past for a future assignment as a UN volunteer. You know, are you matching the requirements that are listed in the description of assignment, etc. Now, we are hoping that you do find a bit like Louis, maybe the same story, you know, that you see one of the descriptions of assignment of the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline, you say like, wow, this really matches perfectly my background, what I've done so far. So let me apply, create my profile, apply today, and then see what, you know, if I'm selected for one of those positions. But you may also say, oh, you know, maybe there is not something for me today, but maybe in a month, 2 months, or 3 months. So as your profile stays in our talent pool, it's important that you keep it updated. And then before every application, to check whether the information there is still relevant and complete and in line with what is described in the description of assignment. And then if also as a new applicant, it's always worthwhile to check out our Explore section on UVP. It gives you access to the full conditions of service, for example, some tips and tools on how to do different steps in the process. So this is also very useful to go through. Now, you have created your profile. How does the actual recruitment process look like? The starting point is always the host entity creating the description of assignment. In this case, UNEP defines what are their needs, what kind of profiles do they want to involve as part of the Young Talent Pipeline, what kind of expertise is needed, etc. So once the DOA has been, the description of assignment has been created, it is published on the platform that I mentioned, on UVP, and gives everyone the possibility to apply. If you already have your profile, the application form is a very short form that it just asks for a few questions, where you can also provide your motivation and then submit your application. If you have not yet registered on the platform, you need to do that first before you can then apply to assignments. Once the description of assignment, the advertisement period closes, our team of recruiters reviews the applications received and then matches those that are most in line with the requirements listed and submits a short list to the host entity. The host entity, UNEP in this case, would then review the applications that we've shared with them. They have the choice to conduct a written test, maybe. They can do interviews in most cases, video interviews typically. And in very, very many cases, the UN system uses so-called competency-based interviews. So it's a good idea, especially if you know that your profile has been shared, to already prepare for those competency-based interviews. Now, the final decision, who is accepted or selected for a UNV assignment, rests with the host entity. So UNEP will decide after the interviews, after their selection process, who they would like to involve. The preferred candidate is then informed and receives an offer from us. There are then a number of steps and pre-departure steps that need to be completed. And then once all of this is done, and shortly before the candidate departs, they receive their contract, travel to the duty station, and at the same time, of course, UNEP or any other host entity would prepare for the arrival of their new UN volunteer. So that's, in a nutshell, the recruitment process. Now, last but not least, there have also been a couple of questions around the entitlements of UN volunteers. So here is a brief overview. We recognize that you are making a full-time commitment for a longer period of time, so in this case 12 months. So we do want to make sure that you are able to lead a secure and modest life at your duty station. So we cover the costs that are associated with that. So to settle in, you receive a entry lump sum. We are covering the travel costs to travel to your duty station and also back home at the end of the assignment. Every month you receive a so-called volunteer living allowance that covers the cost of accommodation, food, etc. You are medically insured. You receive annual leave, about 2.5 days a month. If you are a long-term serving volunteer, we also cover what we call a home visit. And then for every month of successful service, at the end of your assignment, you also receive an exit allowance. As part, especially also of the UNEP initiative, there is also access to training platforms and programs, so that as a UN volunteer, and as mentioned, I think also by Mariana and Luis, you do continue building your professional skills, your experience, while you are serving as a UN volunteer. And this brings me to the end of the presentation. We will try to answer more questions in the chat that are coming in. And I hope this has given you a good overview of what it takes and what are the steps to become a UN volunteer and to apply to the Young Talent program with UNEP and UNV. Thank you very much, and back to Edwin. Edwin, I don't hear you.
Sorry to the audience and to Ursula. Yes. I was saying that was quite an informative session you took us through there. And I got carried away for a while. That's why even my mic was off. I was taking notes and learning new concepts from the recruitment process. Now, I don't know what about our audience, but I picked something. And one of them is you must create your profile on UVP. And to create your profile on UVP, you go to app.unv.org. That is app.unv.org. So the first step to being a UN volunteer is creating your profile and filling in all your information first before you attempt to apply for any vacancy therein. Secondly, is that you have to update your profile every time you're applying for a new assignment. Not, your resume or your UVP profile is not a one size fit all. Is that correct? So every time you're applying for a new assignment, please go through your profile, go through the description of assignment and make sure of assignments before you hit the apply button. And then this is a caveat and a warning that UN Volunteers does not charge any fees in any part of the recruitment process. So I'll say that again, that UNV does not charge any fees in any part of the recruitment process. Nobody will ask you to send any money at any part of the recruitment process. So beware of scammers online. Now, looking at the comment section, I see a lot of questions coming in, and then this means we are moving straight to the Q&A, question and answer session. Again, to our audience, this is your chance now to ask any questions, any burning questions that you've been having about UN volunteers. You've heard from our recruiters, you've heard from Louise and Mariana, you've heard from Soraya. So this is your chance to go to the chat section and start asking those questions, start interacting with us, and most especially on the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline Initiative, the application process or the experience shared by Louise and Mariana. And to get us started, let me just go to the questions. I can see one for Mariana. Hi, Mariana. What kind of projects are you working on in Nairobi, particularly with the youth?
Sure, thanks for this question. So one initiative project I can mention that my unit, my team is working on in Kenya, not only Nairobi, is called Green Jobs for Youth Pact. You can Google it and find more information. It's a joint initiative between ILO, International Labour Organization, UNEP, and also UNICEF, Children's Fund. So this initiative is looking into ensuring just transition in Kenya, in particular, in other countries as well, but since you asked about Kenya, and also enabling, creating an enabling environment for providing green skills and green jobs for Kenyan youth. So I hope I answered the question, and please feel free to Google. I repeat again, Green Jobs for Youth Pact. And feel free to reach out if you need any more information. I'm open on LinkedIn. Thanks.
Brief and clear. Our next question, I think, is to recruitment. This could either go to Ursula or Soraya. Why the age limitation and why the years of experience if it is a volunteer assignment? I'll repeat again. Why the age limitation and why the years of experience, yet it's a volunteer assignment?
Thanks so much for that question. And I'll throw this to Ursula after as well. But in particular, UNEP, we have quite a lot of vacancies for people with 5 to 10, 3 to 5 years of work experience, 5 to 7 years of work experience as staff. So for this, we are looking for the future leaders of UNEP, because we're already recruiting the current leaders of UNEP, and we really want to give these opportunities for people who are younger, who never thought that perhaps UNEP is the place for them to do their environment work, et cetera. And so from our side, for the particular purposes of the Young Talent Pipeline, we are looking for the younger generation who are going to bring us fresh ideas, the current trends, all the things that they've been learning that some of us who have been in the workforce for a little bit longer, we have forgotten it. Additionally, we also do recruit UNVs outside of the Young Talent Pipeline for UNEP that don't have an age limit. or some of them who are expert levels. And then again, we also recruit through staff positions. So please read the description of assignment. And if you suit that description of assignment, please apply. Anything else, Ursula, that I may have missed from a technical standpoint?
No, I think you explained very well why this particular initiative has an age limit. I just want to remind everyone that that through UNV we offer opportunities for people at all stages of their careers, from young graduates up to retirees. There is also a fundamental differences between national assignments and international assignments. So for these young talent pipeline assignments, you have to be a national, a non-Kenyan national, because it's international assignments. So this is also specified in the description of assignment. And there are actually over 60% of the assignments are specifically reserved for people from that country where the assignment takes place. So also there, if you want to volunteer abroad or rather in your home country, there are usually options for both and also for every stage of your career. But for this, there are specific initiatives that can have requirements that are a little different from other ones that we are offering. So just browse through UVP. You will definitely it's definitely worthwhile taking a look at the UNEP ones. But if that's not where your expertise is, you may also want to try and see what else is there on offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Soraya and Ursula. I'm sure our audience are going through a lot of mental calculations, trying to understand description of assignment, international, national. So description of assignment is just the brief summary of what you're intended, what you're supposed to do as a volunteer, and your skills and expertise, basically, and whether it's an international position. International meaning you're serving in any other country other than your country of nationality. And national meaning you're serving in your own country of nationality. So anytime you're applying for an assignment, once you click on it, you'll get a brief description, which is what we call a description of assignment. And in there, we have all the details, number of years required, whether it's national or international, and all that, including the application process and the deadline for the application. And I hope that is clear. Soraya has also said we are looking for young generation with fresh ideas. So keep that in mind. Let me see if we have any other question here. Okay, here is another question. How long does it take for an application to undergo review? Can we apply for more than 2 UN volunteer positions at a time? Again, this is back to recruitment. Either Soraya or Ursula could take this. How long does it take for an application to undergo review? And can we apply for more than 2 UN volunteer positions at a time?
Okay, maybe I can answer in general, and then Soraya, you can answer UNEP specific. The review process can vary greatly. Like any HR process, the host entity who receives the profiles from us, they need to find time to organize interviews, etc. So it's usually, we encourage host entities to come back to us within 2 to 3 weeks after we have shared the shortlisted candidates with them. Sometimes that works out quite well. Sometimes it can also take longer. So if you are flexible in terms of your starting date, that's actually ideal, because it can take a bit longer or shorter depending on the context, the assignment, etc. In general, you can also apply to more than 2 UNV assignments at a time. However, do make sure that you meet all the must-have criteria. It is not necessary to, sometimes we say the more the merrier, but in the case of applications, that's not really true. unless you really fully meet all the requirements listed. You are otherwise wasting effort on something that will not increase your chances simply by applying more times. But if there are two similar assignments where you fully meet the requirements, you can apply to both or more. Soraya, over to you to add if you like.
Thanks so much, Ursula. So just in the context of the young talent pipeline, so UNV will send, once the job opening, the description of assignment deadline ends, the period for you to apply ends, then our dear colleagues in Bonn, sitting probably near Ursula, will send UNEP the list of shortlisted candidates, and that will take some time. But I'm just giving you a brief info of what UNEP is going to do. So we will do a few assessments. Some of them are eliminatory and some of them are not eliminatory. So the first thing that we will do is the hiring managers for each position will do a desk review and identify the candidates who do qualify using the desirables. And any of their, information that they have. This is what this person really needs to have. Oh, this candidate has this. This candidate doesn't have any like local experience. This candidate has only ever worked in government. They've never worked for an NGO, et cetera, et cetera. Then we will give they will identify these candidates. Then we will send them the identified selected candidates out of the shortlist. For a written assessment, and that is a subject matter specific assessment. The hiring managers do it, and it's different for each position. And then that will eliminate. They will then give a passing mark, and it will eliminate further the shortlist. Then all of the candidates will be given a situational judgment test. That's not there's no pass or fail. It's just about how the candidates work in the workplace. It's scenarios in the workplace. And then it's on a spectrum. The answers are always on a spectrum. That's not eliminatory. And then there's the written, and then there's the interview with the panel that includes the hiring manager, probably one of my colleagues from Human Resources, and another colleague. And that one is eliminatory. So the written test and the interview will eliminate you if you don't meet the requirements, the passing mark. And then we will give UNV the list of the selected or preferred candidates. Usually what UNEP does is we give the first candidate, the second candidate. And then UNV will contact the preferred candidate and allow the candidate to have a chance to say yes or say no, ask further questions. So at that point, that should take, perhaps we are hoping it will take a month and a half, up to maybe even up to 2 months. I know for Luis and Mariana, it took a little bit longer than that. But again, as Ursula mentioned, it does depend. It depends on each hiring manager. We want to onboard everyone in the young talent cohort at the same time. So we're hoping that everyone will be ready to be onboarded in November of 2024. Knock on wood, inshallah, whatever you do. So there's that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soraya and Ursula for that. Oh, I'm having a small glitch. So I've picked quite a few keywords from there. Human resources, hiring manager, hiring process, years of experience. So if you haven't noticed, I'll bring it to your attention that UN volunteer positions are quite competitive. The hiring process itself is quite competitive, meaning even as you come on board to apply and try to get in, you must have, depending on whatever position you are applying for, you must have the proper educational background, qualification, and whatever is needed to then fill that position and work properly in your area of expertise. So it's not just When you hear of the term volunteer, you might think you just walk in and do whatever it comes to your mind and you walk out. No. As much as you're coming to volunteer, you're coming to work professionally in a professional space, which is the United Nations and partners. Moving on. Thank you so much, Ursula and Soraya, for that. I think we have one last question. Hi, Louise. Thank you for sharing your experience. Could you share as well what has been the most challenging so far during your volunteer assignment and what project makes you the most passionate? So this is Louise, maybe if I could rephrase it, your most challenging moments and what you have been most passionate about during your volunteer assignment. Go ahead, Louise.
Okay, and that's an interesting question. I think it's quite useful for the others to know. Um, for me, the most challenging was during the onboarding and the whole process, which is not only having to deal with moving all the way around the world, depending on where you come from, and starting settling, looking for a place to live, looking to establish your whole life into a new place, but also having to deal. In my case, it was my first experience inside the UN system. So, as you might imagine, it's quite a big system, and it's as big as it is complicated. So, as I was starting to get a hand with it and to get to know how the processes work, how everything works, and what is different and what is similar to what I've been doing, even though it was a similar position, things change a lot. I also enter in a moment in which the UN environmental assembly was happening, and which is, if you are not well aware, but if it's one of the biggest, if not the big event of the UNEP, as all the member states come together to Nairobi and they take really important decisions on all topics about the spectrum of environment. And pretty much I was also involved in that process. So while I was learning how the UN system works, learning about my specific position and my task will be, I also have to this big moment in which, okay, this is your test. Have you learned enough in what it was, pretty much 1 month more or less. It was quite challenging, but at the same time, it was good because it allowed me to experience really different aspects of the UN system, not only the project management and the environmental per se aspect, but also having to deal with the political aspect, which is the UN system works with countries. We work with with our member states, and we are directed by what the member states consider the most important aspects. So for me, it was a really good experience. I learned a lot, and although I was by the end of it, I was quite tired, and I was it was quite challenging, but it was also a gratification that you can feel after learning a lot. And the other side of the question, what is passionate? I think for me, environment projects, specifically working in the field and seeing so many different actions in conservation, in biodiversity, it's what passions me about. So for me, for example, when I was dealing with these more bureaucratic or more political sides or aspects that the UN also has, and UNEP as part of the UN system has, but at the same time, everything is working to be able to get to the main goal or the main objective, with for me it's biodiversity, but for others can be climate change or youth or education. So that's the most passionate part about my assignment.
Thanks, Louise. Challenges are here to make us grow, and I'm glad you're facing them. The UN system can be a little bit tricky to navigate, but once you get here, you'll realize we have a buddy system. So when you get in here, you'll find Luis, you'll find Mariana, plus a lot more other people who are willing to take you through the system and help you have a shorter learning curve so that then you can go through your duties meticulously without so many challenges. It's been an hour of full information, fun stories, and a lot of recruitment pointers here and there. And as we approach the end of our session, I want to thank everyone for their attention and participation. Your questions were excellent, and they kept the entire live webinar running through softly. I'd also like to extend my sincere gratitude to our wonderful guests, starting with Soraya, Ursula, our panelists, Luis and Mariana, and to our background technical team, Catalina and Toby. Thank you very much. You guys are the A team. For more information on the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline, and to explore the available assignments, please, like I said before, go to app.unv.org. That is app.unv.org. Or I don't know if Toby put up a QR code. You can scan the QR code on your screen if it is there, and go ahead and browse through, see if there is anything there for you that you can apply for and become part of the next cohort of the UNEP Young Talent Pipeline Initiative, which is an initiative together with the United Nations Volunteers. Thank you once again for joining us today in this live webinar. We hope to see many of you apply and join the UNEP YTP next cohort for this impactful initiative run by UNEP. And until next time, have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.